My first time meeting Lewis was after a pretty catastrophic moment in my life where I ended a pretty important relationship to me. And I just needed a space to kind of go and heal and find myself. And I started going to poetry events. But like the first poetry event I went to, I was being made fun of like by the host. And it was just like not it. The energy wasn't it. And I just kept trying. And then I found Lewis's event after the third try because I just love poetry. And I have to say the experience was life-changing. I came into the space, I felt safe. I felt like there was different versions of me in the room. And I felt like every single experience that I had, like from the second I walked in to the second that I walked out, was like specially curated for me. And so when it was time for the second event and the event was sold out, I almost like was having a panic attack. Like, I need this check-in. I need to feel safe. I need to really feel this energy again. And so he offered this situation where he was giving out food to the homeless for free tickets. And so this is when I first actually officially met him for the first time and got to experience him one-on-one, where he went around the city and I think we gave out a couple hundred plates to the homeless people in Kensington. And this is something he was really passionate about. I believe it was around Thanksgiving, if I remember correctly. And it was something that I would have never done had I not needed the ticket, but it was also something that I really needed at the time to do. And then, so from that point, we ended up becoming friends, and I was able to really see Lewis go from zero to like reaching millions and millions and millions of people all within a couple of years in his journey of just trying to create space for people like me. And so I'm really happy to share the space with him and interview him and for you guys to meet him and for us to talk about his story. So we're going to get to the video. Hopefully it loaded. Welcome to the stage, Lewis Marrero. Okay. All right, Lewis, thank you so much for coming and joining us today at Fitler. I know you're busy doing international events now. Dad, it was Father's Day recently. Congratulations on being an amazing father, all the things. I think I just would really love for you to introduce yourself and talk about, you know, your journey as a poet and now into a experience creator so people can get to know you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for you coming, checking us out tonight. Yeah, I'm Lewis Marrero. I am just a kid from Philadelphia who got into trouble really early. And it ended up bringing me to a space where like art was a way for me to get out. I never really tell nobody this, but I started writing like raps because Eminem was my favorite rapper. I was like, oh, my mom gets on my nerves too. So that's just kind of, and then I realized that I couldn't rap. It just wasn't going to work. I have no rhythm. I can't dance. So I started writing poetry and was writing poetry. My first event was in Southern City at the Art Institute when it was open. And it was something similar to the first time we met. It was a drive, a canned food drive for the homeless for a shelter. And every performer gave like a certain amount of food that got donated. So we did something like that. Everybody loved my piece. I was like on fire. I started hitting local open mics now in Philly, and that feeling quickly faded. I went into a space that was filled with people. And when I got on the mic, I didn't get any respect. No one was quiet. No one was attentive. And it like really bothered me, but I was like, no, I'm gonna come back. You know, people drunk, I'm gonna try to perform earlier. I signed up number 2 on the list. I don't get on the list again. Or like the host is like calling other people up. And I was just like, oh, they really just don't care about us. Like if you don't have a name or anything. And it stopped me from doing poetry. And then when I ended up moving to Vegas, I found a poetry community out there that was young, my age. So we started doing that. It started getting a lot better. And I was like, I'm going to move back to the East Coast and I'm going to start an open mic like I didn't get to have an experience when I first came up. So I moved back, and then we started Voices in Power. And then from there, I mean, it's what the journey has really been is Voices in Power, I've recently realized, was just a reflection of my personal life, right? Like when I first started, I had this big desire inside of me to like, and it came, Voices in Power honestly was birthed out of like being petty and like angry and like butthurt that I didn't get respect on an open mic that I felt like so entitled to have, right? And so when I started the open mic, I knew that I wanted to create a space where people wouldn't feel like that. And I was so hungry and so passionate for it. So that's what was birthed out of VIP. It felt hungry, it felt passionate, it felt gritty. And then like, I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know that like, you have to do all these kind of like back end things to make a night run. I was just like passionate. So, and then like, yeah, so like personal stuff started happening, and then like VIP would fade. And then like I would be in a really good place in my personal life, and then VIP kind of was taking off. And I realized, that it really just was connected to me personally. And then what changed it was inviting community to be a part of a community that I was trying to build. I realized that I couldn't build a community without having my own to connect with and build it too. Yeah, I mean, we just...
Okay. I mean, I want to get personal here if you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And talk about some of the challenges that you faced while building VIP. You said like a lot of personal stuff was happening as it was growing. And then you said that there was like retraction happening. Do you mind going into that a little bit?
Yeah, I can share like two moments that affected VIP the most. And both of these problems are directly connected to not having a team run it with me. Both of them. I didn't know that I needed a team. There were times where I have to show up to a venue at 8 o'clock in the morning for an event that doesn't open till 6 because I'm on the second floor, and the 200 chairs and the tables I need are on the first floor, and the venue's not helping me transport it. Like, and this is when I first started, so I'm pulling up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just like, I don't need nobody, right? And I'm carrying. And it's not, and I'm glad we in the space, it's not like folding chairs where I can like muscle up 4 at a time. It's like these joints, because the downstairs was like a Turkish restaurant. And they just had an empty space upstairs. But that's what it looked like. And for me at that time, that was a challenge. That started to like eat me up. And then at the end of the night, guess what? They open in the morning. I got to take these chairs and tables back downstairs before I leave. And this is happening, and I'm just like, this ain't it. Like month 6, I'm like, no, this can't, like, first, I'm too small. Like, if I wanted to go into a more, I would have went a different route. But I never realized that during these times, people would either come a little bit early or stay a little bit later and offer help. And I'd be like, nah, you can't do that. And at the time, I don't know what I thought it was, but it was pride. Right? Like it was just foolishness, honestly. But that could have been saved. That hardship, could have been saved had I had community. And then something a little bit more severe. One of my anniversary nights, that morning I got a call and found out that my grandfather has terminal cancer. I got an event tonight for 200 and something people that bought tickets for money that I don't have, that I can't refund. And I don't have no team or no one in place to help me get through that moment. That made me want to quit. I did that night, and then I stopped Voices in Power for like 6 months because I just couldn't handle it. And we fast forward, and it's just many moments like that until I realized like, no, there's people here that are willing to help. I always felt like I'm here doing something for you, so I can't allow you to help me. Because it almost like takes away the value of what this exchange is supposed to be, at least to me. And then I started letting people in, and we got these video guys here that started doing our videos, and we grabbed a couple other people, some other hosts, so that I didn't have to do that anymore. And now we got teams in several cities, and I literally could go an entire month without ever popping up at an event, and everything runs the way it would if I wasn't there. But like, yeah. So like there's, the little stuff like I'm too weak for this, to experiencing death the day of, to even as something as like recently I was doing an anniversary and we just had our 12-year anniversary weekend.
Congratulations on that. Yo, give me a round of applause. 12 years?
12 years. And that was in April, right? And I'm still learning like business stuff 12 years in. I really didn't even think of Voices in Power as a business until like 3 years ago. Still learning, still figuring stuff out. Messed up I didn't submit like paperwork I needed for my business bank account. And I was hyped because I'm like, I just got this joint, like it's official, not like this other bootleg one I had. And they were like, your account is frozen and all the funds are frozen because you missed this deadline to submit like all these forms. So they were like, your business isn't real. We don't have this. We don't have this. And I'm just like, I don't even know what that is. I might not even have that. I ended up getting everything they needed. They were like, your funds will be released in this day, and my anniversary, which was really expensive. And I thought that I was going to get sponsorship financially to help with some of the costs, but didn't. Was 2 days later where it was 3 events where I had to pay this money that I don't have access to in my account because it's frozen. And I sat there and I'm just like, man, I guess I'm about to get to the airport, fly to another country, and just like, people just can't see me no more because I don't even know how to save this. I just ate it, right? Like, I was like, you know what? I had my moment. I sat down. I was like, Lewis, you have community. This isn't a challenge that you should still be struggling with. You have community that can help you in this moment. I made a very honest, vulnerable video and I shared like, hey, y'all, because of my stupidity and my ignorance and whatever the case is, this is just where I am. I need this amount of money and raise thousands of dollars in 2 hours to pay for the whole weekend. And then they all got their bread back. But yeah, in 2 hours, raised all the money I needed to pay for a weekend that I thought I couldn't afford. And that was kind of hard. And some of the people that donated money already bought tickets to be at the anniversary weekend. So just like, yeah, so like really those are like personal things, just like very few, but it's always been something like that. And then of course, like the breakup, that's so heavy. I can't go outside. I've had one of those moments too. VIP just, people like, why VIP not happening? And I'm sad in the house arguing with my girl, can't go outside. So I'm like, nobody has VIP. Nah, but it's real though. And I mean, this was younger me, but like really Voices in Power, because I didn't have a team, anything that shook me, shook it. And like, I see that happening a lot of times. Like Rex motto like pushes a different agenda, but a lot of times people try to do it by themselves. And I was there, and that's one of the first things I tell people, like, find a team. And a lot of times people don't know how to do that, but that has to happen before you burn out and crash. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Those personal stories, I feel like it's going to help someone in the room to really understand that, it's not all about you. And this is the social media club. And I feel like that's when I pivoted from 0 to like 85,000, when I started centering other people than myself. And so my own personal journey, I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. So I want to ask you, when was that turning point for you? Like, what was that switch that you realized, like, hey, not only do I need other people, but also in my experiences, it's not about me and that like me wanting to perform and get up on stage and like say my poetry when I want to say it. I'm not even performing anymore. So what was that shift like for you?
The performance piece came, I stopped being a poet a while back when we would get 40, 50 poets coming to sign up when we can only fit 20 people on a list. And this was years ago. Now it's a completely different monster, but like this was years ago. So I felt like it wasn't fair for me to take the space of someone else. And at that time, I've already did like tours across the country. I've gotten to travel and perform a lot. So I just felt like it was time to kind of just like step out of that. And I truly feel like me performing was a way for me to get the type of connections, influence in this poetry community that I have now, to be able to sit on the back end and create something for them that I didn't have when I was coming up. But the hosting part and like really like scaling back and bringing more people in, when my son was born. When my son was born, the concept of time drastically shifted for me. And now it's like, there's nothing worth my time away from him. So like, where am I going to sacrifice that with other people doing other things? Because anytime, even this, like anytime I'm not with my son, I have to consider that a sacrifice because he's the most important thing to me. So like, because of that, I was like, man, I just want to be home with him. But I know that this is too important. Like before, when I didn't have a team, to just let it go. So I was like, all right, my team is in place. They can make it happen. And now whenever I need space, I take it to have with him. So like, he's really what changed. Like, Lewis, you got to remove yourself. I really want to even get to the point where I delete my personal stuff. Like, I don't want to be seen at all. He's drastically changed a lot for me in that regard.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Lewis, I expressed to you my experience at your events and how I feel. And so and then in our last podcast we did last year, we talked about your thought process behind what you think about and what goes into creating an event from every single moment. And I kind of want to go through it again so people here can understand your thought process when you're creating and like how much intention goes behind it.
Yeah, I just try to imagine what I would want to experience, right? And I try to put myself in someone else's shoes of, I had to wake up, I got a crazy morning or whatever the case is, I'm coming off of work, whatever it is, right? To the moment that they pull up and they enter the space, what do people want, right? They're seeing the check-in person, they're getting checked in. And I want to be clear too, because like sometimes when I talk about, people think it's just an open mic, right? Because that's what we're doing. We're creating an open mic. But we really run this, compared to other open mics, like a business. We really try to be excellent. We really try to be community service focused. We really try to be intentional with like, hey, I joke with my team like, hey, we got a problem. And I'm like smiling just because I don't even need anyone seeing that there's something going on. That's how much I care about what people are experiencing. So really just paying attention to just all of those type of things. And then how do I engage people's senses, right? Like what do they see? What are they hearing? What do they feel when they come in? What type of food and drinks are they able to taste? Like all of those things matter. And then we create the stuff on top that's fun, right? Like we have an open mic. Most people know what this structure looks like. How do we make it different? Okay, I learned about this rock, paper, scissors, shoot game with kids. I'm about to make a room full of 200 adults play this game. And they play the game and we have fun and we give away prizes. And then we do the open mic and then we'll stop and we'll do some karaoke, but competition form, and bring people up on stage to run and grab a mic and sing a song that they, knew growing up or whatever, and embarrass themselves for everyone to have fun. So really just started to just do that. And then once we perfected it, now we get to just kind of like enhance and tweak little moments. But we've been able to take this and the culture that's soaked in it, right, over the decade plus that we've doing it. And now every other city that we touch, and even internationally, we're able to duplicate that same thing, a completely different space. And that's when I realized like, okay, like we got a little bit of juice here. Like there's something special here for us to be able to take this, what we've grown at home in Philly for 12 years with our people, our neighbors, and take this to a place like London and it feels exactly the same. Like that's when it just like, that little kind of pat on the back was like, okay, well, we're doing a good job at creating these experiences. And then now we got to find some new things to add to it to spice it up a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't think people realize like you're reaching millions of people per month on social media because people can resonate and feel the type of experience that people are feeling in person. And I think that's why you're so successful is because you care so much about the experience, and then the videographers can just come and capture like the intention behind what you're already doing. Like you don't have to do anything extra because you've already planned this experience like to a T, to every moment, every minute. And it's amazing and it's incredible. And that's why you're in cities like London, and you can be in a completely different culture amongst a completely different people and then package it and people still feel the same way about your event. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'm curious, like, what are your plans for the next 5 years and where do you see this, headed or going? Because like in my brain, I'm like, London, like, you know what I mean? Like you're in London, Philly, I think you were in Houston, all these different cities, you're headed to Miami. So are we going to just be expanding to newer, bigger cities? Are we going to see you on a television show? Like, what's the...
I see a lot of things. For 5 years, I see Voices Empowered, the expansion to continue to happen. We have a few cities, and then I think I'm going to pause on it because I keep changing my mind on what I want to do, like expand and keep expanding, but I think I'm at a place where I'm going to expand, pause, and really get into more of a teaching side component of things and really start trying to figure out performance and writing workshops, workshops for curators that are trying to start open mics, workshops around, social media stuff or whatever, but really just to put our community more just in a place where like they really can do well, that is not just about the craft or their skill, but we can start to try to help them hone their skills, because there's nothing like that for poets. There's not a community for poets like the one that we have at the scale that we have it. You get that with music, you get that with a lot of other mediums, but with poetry, we've kind of been on the lower end of things for a while now. And I think that now is the time that it's really growing. So we want to make sure that our poets have some information. We also will be throwing our 4th annual Poets Going Poet Award ceremony that we will have at the Met, I promise you. That's going to pull poets from all over the world to come check that out. So just things like that. We want our own space, our own cafe, own, office, but just continue to grow and make sure that we can give information to our poets in our community.
Amazing. I can see like from the start of your journey, your intentions to now 12 years later. And I feel like you've been able to shift because of that intention shift when you're now prioritizing and centering other people. So I'm really proud of you and I'm happy and I'm grateful that you're here. I also wanted to mention that there's some parallels that you have with making it more than you. And in our last meeting, we had Will Toms here. Shout out, Will. He mentioned that he started from this idea of like needing the space for him and his friends. And then you started with this idea of needing a space to perform. And so there's like insane parallels between like the growth that both of you have had with kind of your intentions being about you and then expanding. And I feel like a lot of people on social media, they want to reach 1 million followers and reach 1 million people, obviously for their own self. So I guess my question here is, how do you manage your intentions, keep them pure while also monetizing right now in the space that you're at?
Yeah, sometimes all of those things can work together and sometimes they can't. I think for me personally, I'm unshakable in regards to like what I want for Voices in Power. We've had opportunities for certain things that looked exciting, but we knew that it wasn't going to really mess well with our DNA, our culture. And even though we need certain resources, we know that we're just going to stay true to who we are. I've been building this as protective as I am over my son, who is very different, right? Because he's like up here and VIP is really here. But as protective as I am over Carter being my son, right? Voices in Power is also my baby that I've had for 12 and a half years. And I feel like we're just getting to a place where I'm like, oh, the world is starting to see how dope this has been. Like, it always blows my mind sometimes where people are like, oh my gosh, like, you guys blew up out of nowhere. And it's like, bro, I've been doing this for 12 years. Like, y'all just caught on. But like, you know, like, people think that it's something that is not because of social media. But yeah, so I mean, we'll be unshakable in regards to that. And then as far as like the monetization part, sometimes like I'm losing a lot of money on Instagram because I refuse to follow some of the guidelines that will put too much of a restriction on our poets, right? And that is something I like. Maybe a few months ago, I sat down after, it was like after like our first couple, I think it was like our first poet might have went viral, and I believe it was Visionary. And when I seen the check from Instagram that month, I was like, oh, okay, I like that, right? Like, it ain't changing my life, but I was like, that's paying for something. And I, you know, I didn't have it in that regard. So I was like, I like this. And then Instagram just got all these restrictions, right? And I just feel like, yeah, people are enjoying the poetry that we're posting, but I'm not giving it to them in the rawest form because I got to edit, because I have to do these things. And I felt like, no, I can't do that, not for money, right? Like, I have to be, and when we did that, now we got over 30 videos that hit 1 million views on our social media. So like drastically, but when I see that number, I'm like, wow. And I'm like, imagine if I was getting paid for them tours. So like, it hurts. But right now, just really like, YouTube is our only source of monetization from the digital side of things, and Facebook very, very small. But right now we really just grind on the muscle of tickets, right? Like that's the only source of income that we're bringing in, and it's been enough for us to do what we've done. So super, super grateful for like all the support over the years. Yeah.
Thank you. I feel like you had brand deals in the past year, right? So I'd love to know what that process is like. Did you reach out to them or did they reach out to you?
Now, one of the beautiful things, again, like community, one of the things that I've rarely been scarce of over the years is opportunities that are extended from people that I've connected with in some regard, whether it's a relationship that I had that's a friendship, or whether it's someone that I met one time at an event years ago. Almost every major opportunity that I've ever been presented has been extended. So I don't know if I want to share names, but like, yeah, worked with big companies to do music festivals and different local events and stuff like that. And it's, again, always been through another connection. And I take pride in that because over the years, right, because I get a question a lot from open mic curators, specifically because that's what I do, that are like, how do you get all these people to come to your event? Like, it's just like this button that I press, or it's just like, you just do this. And like, everyone fills the room, right? Because if it was that easy, I'd do this every single day because there's millions of people in this area, right? But it took so much time to really like cultivate this whole, what else I miss? What did you ask me? Oh, the brand deals. Yeah, so all of that to say, like, one of the number one thing I tell people is trust. Like, people have to trust you. They have to trust you in the sense of, hey, I'm giving you, you know, whatever the ticket amount is, I'm giving you my time. I got to come to Center City most of the time, so I'm paying for parking in Center City in some garage. I'm buying food. I'm probably on a date, so it's doubled. Single, y'all, is cheaper. Right? Like, they're really investing a lot, and that comes with a certain amount of trust to be able to do it. In Philly, we sell 400 tickets a month, and we do 150 tickets in every other city that we touch at minimum. So that takes a lot of trust to be able to do that. And because I've been able to be kind of like on top of my ish at most of the time and be consistent and building this trust and community. It's allowed partnerships to happen so easily, to just be able to kind of reach out. Hey, we're looking to, because everybody's trying to dabble in poetry. Big companies started dabbling. The easiest thing, the first thing that was music, right? Like, or really it was like visual arts, and then like music, right? Like you walk into a hotel, it no longer looks old and boring because they got like this abstract art here. Still elevator music, and then eventually they changed the music, right? I think that now a lot of companies are like, hey, we're trying to do this spoken word thing. We're trying to do this poetry thing. And I love it because we're climbing really fast at like the perfect time for poetry specifically. We just got the Grammys where they got a best spoken word album. So now it's like, hold up, we need poets. So really now for poets, this is the time to really move. And we're glad that we're climbing at the rate we are and are able to like be the pioneers of it. But I'm Fortune 20 company, insurance, like super, super big company, the founder, and just excuse, like I'm Puerto Rican. Most of our audience is Hispanic and Black, right? Being in a city like Philly, that's just what's common, right? So that's the poetry we hearing. There's a guy I'm sitting across. They fly me out to another city in the country. We're sitting down, and it's a billionaire, old white guy sitting across from me with 4 other old white people. And this guy, this is for real, because this was like a big thing for me. I'm sitting there, and the CEO was like, I've randomly came across a video on YouTube of poetry. Plays it on this thing, right? It's this poem, it's going off, whatever. I forget the poet's name. Turns it off. This guy got like tears in his eyes, and he was like, this changed my life. This is so powerful. It's so impactful. It's so this, right? And I've already known a lot of what I carry inside of me of like, I know what we're doing is special. I know that poetry is powerful, but to sit across an old white guy that's the CEO of one of the largest companies in the world and say that poetry impacted him in that way. He said he literally Googled who's the poetry guy and just went down this rabbit hole, found Voices in Power, right? Booked me, we come out, and now I'm writing, and I get to choose the actors for 3 of their commercials. And it's all going to be spoken word communicating insurance. There was a poet that texted me earlier, and they mentioned like the politics of poetry is starting to get to them. And I'm sure in any sphere of whatever it is that you do, whether it's a bank, whether it's a dental office or whatever, there's the politics at work, right? And it's starting to get to her. And she was just like, with me growing, I don't know where to go to get money, but in the den of lions, right? Like what all the politics come. And I had to tell her, and I'm excited to really start like pushing this story more to people, but an insurance company is paying me a lot of money to write a poem. And I think that sometimes poets just look at it as a mic in front of a room full of hipsters or millennials or whatever, and really taking away the power of all we're doing is telling a story. We're communicating a message. We're using words. That's where our gift is. I'm not performing this poetry. I'm writing it, and then they're allowing me to book. So I'm booking all poets that fit their demographic to act this poem out in a commercial, and really just had to let her know, like, businesses, they want poets right now. So I think to just be a little bit more proactive and making that happen.
Wow. Let's give Lewis a round of applause, guys. It's amazing. Like, the fact that you're able to build a platform for yourself and now build a platform for other poets to monetize and make money is a huge accomplishment, especially in the city of Philadelphia. So I just want to say thank you so much and ask you, how is it that we can help you, and what is it that you need right now?
A hug, some food, and yeah, I think right now, I was sharing with someone here, we've reached a place where I can't do it by myself anymore. It's probably been reached. My car been ran out of gas. I've been pushing it Flintstone style, trying to deny it. But I can no longer do it by myself. And, but I don't make enough money, transparently, to like hire some more people to help me do what I'm doing. I have a phenomenal team that does stuff for me for crumbs and hugs. But our biggest thing right now that we're looking to grab is an office and some funding to get at least another person full time, so that I can really start to put these ideas in motion that we have. Like where we are is really, it's been beautiful, but there's so much more to come, and I can't do it by myself anymore. So I need to get some funding so I can grab a couple people on my team and then start pushing it forward.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I hope that you get it. You never know, from this video, from this room, it might just happen. So I love you, Louis. Like, you're an inspiration. Thank you so much for your contribution, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I am going to open this room up to questions. So if you have a question, put your hand up and I will pass around the mic. I'm going to start with my mom, selfishly.
So not a question, but I would love to hear a poem.
You can say no.
And I can't?
You can.
Oh, okay. All right, so I'm talking to everybody but Nicole mom at this moment. Like, you can't say no to a mom, but I really want to tell this mom no. So, like, the morals is creeping. They like, Louis, you can't walk past somebody that just dropped their groceries on the floor. We gonna rain check on lunch. Okay. I got you, though.
Here we go.
Thank you. Lou, appreciate you sharing your story, sharing the insight. Earlier, I think Nicole really hit it on the head about how thoughtful you are with the in-person experience and then allowing that to kind of translate digitally. But I'm wondering, now that you guys have had over 30 videos, hit 1 million views, which is phenomenal. What are some of the maybe things that you think have set you guys up for success in that, right? Obviously, the poetry is phenomenal, but I'm wondering, just from a more mechanic standpoint, like, are there anything that you guys have been doing that you think have set the content up to be able to go viral in the way you have repeatedly, right? It's not like a fluke, it happened once or twice, right? Now 30 times, there's something there. And I'm wondering, from your lens, is there anything that you think that you guys are doing really well that enables that kind of repeated success?
Thank you. Great question. Absolutely. Mechanically, and to be as transparent, no. I think that one of the things that does set us apart from other poetry communities that are posting videos that aren't reaching the type of numbers that we reach starts with these gentlemen here. The quality of video, a lot of times from other poets or other curators, I feel like they're not investing in that component, which is so major. From an algorithm standpoint, Instagram is going to push it if it's to a certain quality. If it's looking bad and there's too much text going on your screen, which is why I went away from like the fatter text on there, and there's just like the sound quality of things. They're connecting sound directly to the mic, pulling from that. Like, so these mechanical decisions being made on like the recording aspect are making a big difference in that regard. Outside of that, us having the amount of events that we have with the number of poets, we're getting 80 plus videos I can select on a monthly basis, right? And it's 80 plus videos in a few different cities. And we always do the collaboration, which allows us to connect into now their audience, right? So like those little things are absolutely our driving forces. And then because we have so many videos, there's so many good videos, you know, while I'm editing, I feel like, oh, this can hit, and we're putting them up. Our community is so, if you ever go into the comments, we posted one recently of Matt Capone, and his poem is called Dear Steve Harvey, right? Yeah, from the fella side, right? Like fellas is loving it. The ladies aren't really a big fan of it. So it's like the shade room drama in the comments. We feed that because like, again, it's just showing engagement. So like we're really intentional. Even now, the algorithm for Instagram is tracking messages. If you're not responding to DMs, they start putting you less in front of people because they feel like you have no real connection. So like, just like things like this, and then because of all the videos, we're just able to post a lot. So sometimes we'll post 5 times a day on every single platform we have.